Welcome to Python Programming Language video tutorials by Shine India Pvt Limited. I am your Posubabu Sir, Technical, Quant, Logical Reasoning Trainer. In my previous tutorial, I have discussed a program to take user input for the list using for each loop. In this presentation, I would like to discuss the same program using while loop. Without further delay, let's start our class. If you observe in my previous presentation, we have taken user input in order to represent the length of the list. So that I have denoted with a variable called n. So for example, n holds 4. This value will be given by whom? User. Which means user wish to enter 4 elements. I hope everybody understood this one. So later we have taken one empty list. So clearly user wish to enter 4 elements. So we have to read 4 integer values from the user and those elements will be added to this list. So clearly we have to execute the loop for how many number of times? 4 times. Because user wish to enter 4 elements. Right. Now, let me explain this program using while loop. So the syntax for while is you have to write while and beside you have to write the condition. Here I am taking the condition as n greater than 0. Right. Whenever n value is greater than 0, you could run this block of while. Right. So clearly n holds 4, 4 greater than 0. So we can enter into the block of while and let us read the elements from the user. I would like to take integer values from the user. So for that I am writing the code as int of input. So here user will enter the integer value. Now what is our role? This element we have to send it to this list A. So for that, we are going to use append method. So since we are going to send it to A, so you have to write A dot append. And here you have to pass what element? What is an element you are passing here? ELE. So whatever the element user entered, that will be stored in ELE. So this one you have to pass at the append method, so that the element will be added to this list. Right. Now you have to reduce n value. So as a loop has to be terminated after some iterations. So here some iterations means 4 iterations. After 4 iterations, so this loop has to be come out or terminated. So to terminate the loop, so I'm going to use here n minus equal to 1. So what does it mean? So n equal to n minus 1, right? So if you are not writing this statement, this loop will be iterated infinity number of times. As always, n value 4. If you reduce it, what will happen after some iterations? So this condition will be failed and you can easily come out from the loop, right? As we discussed many times, the iterations and all. So I'm going to come out here and I'm going to write here print statement so that the loop will be executed and then so statement that is print A. So list of elements will be printed on the screen. So if you observe in the first iteration, so since clearly 4 greater than 0, so element will be taken from the user. Let's say that that element is some 10. So this 10 will be added to this list, right? So hence you may see A is equal to 10, right? Now we are reducing n value. So previous n value is 4. Since we are reducing it by 1, now updated n value is 3. Now again from this, control will go back to the top of the loop and checks the condition. Since n value is 3, So let us write here 3. So clearly 3 greater than 0 condition is true. Again, you can take the input value from the user. So in this case, let's say it is 20. Now this 20, you have to send it to the A. So after that, you may identify A holds 2 elements. So new element will be joined at the end of the list. Now again, n value will be updated. In this case, n value is 2. Now again, control go back to the top of the loop. So instead of 3, now we have 2. Now again, condition is true. Element will be taken from the user. In this case, let's say it is 30. Now that element will be added to the list A. So A will be consist of 3 elements, 10, 20, 30. Right? Now again, n value will be reduced. Now n becomes 1. Now again, control go back. So instead of 2, now we have a 1. Now let us write here 1 greater than 0. Condition is true. Element we can take from the user. Now in this case, let us take 40. Now that element will be added to the A. So A holds total 4 elements like this. Now again, n value will be reduced. Now finally n becomes 0. Now control go back to the top of the loop. So instead of 1, write 0. Now what happened here? The condition is failed since 0 greater than 0 is not true. So we will be getting here false. When condition is false, control will be coming out of the loop and this statement will be executed. So you may get the output as 10, 20, 30, 40. So I hope everybody clearly understood this one. Now let me execute the same program in my IDE. So let us write the same code. So n equal to 4 and let us take one empty list. And then I am writing here while and condition here n greater than 0 or you may take it as n not equal to 0 as well. And then let us read the element from the user. Since I wish to read integer values, we have written int of input. Here you could enter the integer value so that user will come to know what data he has to enter. Soon after taking the element that we have to pass it to the empty list there. So a dot append and what we are passing here element. So after completion of these steps, we have to update the n value. For that, I'm using assignment operator called minus equal to. So I just wish to reduce it by 1. Right? So n minus equal to 1. Now coming outside of loop and then print a. Now let us execute it. So let us give first time 10, second element 20, third element 30, fourth element 40. Now you could see the list. So I hope everybody clearly understood, right? Now let's go back to the presentation over here. And you may see one important point, that is at the beginning, user provided 4 here, which means we wish to run this loop for 4 times. So clearly based on that one, we have written the condition, right? So here you may understand 2 important points. So when we know how many number of times loop has to be iterated. Right? So in other cases, when we don't know how many number of times the loop has to be iterated. Here 2 cases, right? In the first case, So in my previous presentation, I have executed using for each loop. So clearly we know how many number of times loop has to be iterated, right? So hence we have used for each loop, right? So this is case number one. So right, case number one, we can do it, right? Even the same job, you could do it using while loop, right? So if you observe here, we know here how many number of times loop has to be iterated? 4 times, right? So which means the job done by for each loop can be done by even while loop, right? So I hope you could understand. So same job can be done by while loop, right? Now case number two. So when we don't know how many number of times loop has to be iterated, can you use for each loop to execute the program? Here it is not possible, but this job can be done by while. So try to understand the important point, what I wish to convey here. So while loop can be done two jobs when we know how many number of times loop has to be iterated, when we don't know how many number of times loop has to be iterated. So both times you could use this while loop, right? Now, can we execute the same program when at the beginning, if user not provided this information, that is how many number of elements he wishes to enter? Yes, we can. Now, let me explain the same program when user not provided how many number of elements he wishes to enter at the beginning. Now, let's start and discuss the program. Now, directly I am taking an empty list here and I'm writing here while loop. So beside while, we always write the condition. Here, I am writing the condition as true. Why I am writing the condition as true? We don't know how many number of times this loop has to be iterated. So when we write the condition as true, this loop can be executed infinity number of times. Infinity number of times. I hope the idea of this program is clear to everybody, right? Now, since condition is true, we can always enter into the loop and let us take the element from the user. So let us write here int of input, right? And you just try to add this element to the list A. So for that, you have to use append method. And you could pass element here, right? Now, user entered element and that element will be added to the list. Now, whether he wishes to add one more element, now here you could read that information from the user, whether he wishes to add one more element or not. So for that, I am using here input function. So let me create one variable name, that is the choice, which is equal to, I am writing here input function. At this input function, you just try to pass the message that would you like to add one more element by the user or not? So I'm going to pass the message as here, would you like to add one more element? One more element. So if it is yes, so he has to click the button called Y, else he has to click the button called N. So what does it mean? If he click the button called Y, which means he would like to add one more element, which means this block of code has to be executed one more time. Suppose if he click the button called N, so we have to come out from this loop. So I hope everybody clearly understood what I have conveyed here, right? Now let us check if choice equal to, let me take, if choice equal to, if it is N, if it is N, what does it mean? So he don't want to add one more element, which means N stands for here now. He don't want to add one more element. So which means we have to come out from this loop, right? So for that, we have written here break statement, right? and then you just try to come outside and print A. You will be getting your list of elements, right? Now, let me explain here. Suppose user entered the first element as 10. Now that 10 will be added to the list A. So you will be getting what here? So A is equal to A holds 10 now. Now we are asking user, if user entered Y. Now in choice we have Y here. Is it Y equal to N? No. When this condition is false, so block of if won't be executed, control will go back to the top of the loop. Again, condition is true. Now, second time, user will enter one more element, that is 10. And add it to that element using this append function or method into the list A. Now, updated list is 10, 20. Now again we are asking the user, would you like to add one more element? So in this case, he has given n, which means he don't want to add elements, right? Now choice holds what n, character n, right? Now is it n equal to n? Condition is true. When condition is true, break will be executed, which means unconditionally it will be coming out of the loop. It terminates the loop. So outside we have a statement called print A. So which means the output you will be getting 10, 20. So I hope everybody clearly understood what I have conveyed here. Now let's go back to my IDE and discuss or execute the same program. Let me erase the previous program. And let us write here A is equal to one empty list. And then I am writing the condition here while true, which means the loop will be executed infinity number of times. And let us take the element from the user. For that I am writing int of input. Right? So you could pass the message here, enter the value. Right? Now let me send this element to the A. So for that, you could write a dot append of ELE. And then what I am going to do here, I am going to take one variable called choice. Choice equal to, you take the input function and pass the message whether user wish to enter one more element or not. So for that I am passing. So would you like to add one more element? Just I'm asking the user. If it is yes, type Y, or no, right? Which means N. So if user clicks a button called Y, he wishes to add one more element, which means we have to run this loop once again. If it is N, we have to come outside. Further, I am checking the condition here. If choice holds N, so which means what? We will be coming out of the loop. So using break statement. Now let's come outside and then let us print A. So execute once so that you could understand. So enter the value. We have to enter integer values here as we have given int method here, right? Now let me write here 10. So we are asking, would you like to add one more element? So yes, why? Now enter a value. So enter next element 20. Now in this case, I don't want to add one more element. So I am coming out of the loop. Now you could see the output, which is what? 10, 20. So list has been printed on the screen. Now, after understanding this program, you may get one doubt. Is it user will enter always the integer values? He may wish to add float values or string values or complex numbers. So in that particular case, as we discussed in my previous presentation, you may use eval function. So the role of the eval function is based on the input given by the user, it will be converts. Right. Now, let me execute it once again and see. Enter the value So in the first case, I am going to give you here one integer value 10. It is asking whether you would like to add one more element. Yes. Now, in this case, I am going to give you my name, right? And then click enter. Again, it is asking, would you like to add one more element? So click yes, means Y. Now, in this case, I am going to give you an element called float value, some 9.8. Now click enter. Now, in this case, I am going to give, I don't want to add any elements. So press the button called N. You could come outside and then you could see the list of the elements. Here, I have added different data type elements, right? So I hope you could understand, right? You may get one more question after observing this program. Is it user will enter only smaller case y or smaller case or lower case n? Sometimes capital Y or capital N may be entered by the user. In that particular case, so you may not perform this action. So for that, we have a string method called that is lower. So whatever the character that is entered by the user, that will be converted in terms of lower case using this lower method. It is one of the string method, right? Suppose if user entered capital N, so that will be converted into lower case and stored in choice, right? So I hope you could understand what I have explained here. So now we have small n here, right? Small n equal to small n. So condition is true, break will be executed. Let's see. So enter the value. So I'm giving here 20, first element. Now let me type here y and then click enter. So enter the value. Now I am giving 30. Now again it is asking. Now unfortunately instead of giving small n, he has entered capital N, right? Now click enter. However, we can terminate the loop, right? Because of this lower function or method, so this lowercase n can be converted, right? So this capital N given by the user will be converted into what? Lowercase. So I hope everybody clearly understood. Now, is it only lower method we could use? Can we use any other method to convert from capital or uppercase into lowercase? You may use here case fold also. Now let me execute it once again. Enter the value. So I am giving here some 30 as my first element and then click Y. So again, it is asking the value to enter. I am giving 40. Now in this case, I am giving capital N. Now let's see, you will be getting output. The same output we got it. So I hope everybody clear with so the methods which I have written beside this choice. So you may use lower method or else case fold method. So both will do the same action over here in this program, right? So now using this eval function is somewhat risky. To avoid that, so you may use one module that is AST. Let me import that module. So in this module, we have a function called literal underscore eval. Using this literal underscore eval is safe. So hence, I just want to use that method here. Right? So right here, AST dot. So what is the function name here? Or method name? So literal underscore eval. So using this method is safe. If you are going to use only eval method or function, so it is risky, especially when you are writing longer codes, lengthy codes, safety is very less. So hence we are suggesting you to use literal underscore eval function. So this function is available in AST module, right? Now let me execute it so that you could understand. So first time I'm giving 10. So let us type here capital Y. So however, so we can get the new value here. So we can enter the new value. So in this case, I'm going to give you, so my name and click enter. Again, it is asking, I'm going to press Y. So add one more element. So in this case, I am writing here talent shine and click enter. So again, I'm typing here some capital Y. So again, it is asking to enter the value. So in this case, I'm going to give you some complex number. So 3 plus 10J. So now in this case, I'm going to enter capital N. So however, we got the output. So here we have added different data types. So I hope everybody clear with this program. If it is clear my video, please like, share and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching.